Welcome back to the Farm Show here on Westplex Talk 1045. We are in C Block. That is our third segment of the day. And as promised, we're going to talk about the two biggest behemoths. I should say, two of the biggest behemoths in agriculture on the farming side, and that would be Bayer and Corteva. Let's start off with Bayer. It was announced this week that the Missouri Supreme Court will not take up the Bayer appeal of a $611 million Roundup verdict. This story is brought to us by the folks at Reuters and the reporter Deanna Novak Jones. Here's what Ms. Jones writes. The Missouri Supreme Court has declined to take up Bayer's appeal of a $611 million verdict awarded to three people who claimed the company's Roundup weed killer caused their cancer. Bayer had asked the state's highest court to overturn the court's ruling that upheld the verdict, arguing the judge overseeing the 2023 trial had made several errors. But the high court denied the petition on Tuesday without comment, following its standard practice. The decision marks a setback for the company as it fights more than 60,000 lawsuits claiming Roundup and its active ingredient, glyphosate, cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and other cancers. The litigation has been costly for the company, and in July, it set aside another $1.4 billion to cover litigation costs. The company has said that decades of studies have shown Roundup is safe for human use. In a statement, a spokesperson for Bayer unit Monsanto said the company is considering appealing the ruling to the U.S. Supreme Court as it continues, quote, to believe that significant and reversible errors were committed during trial and the appellate phase and warrant review by a higher court. We'll leave the Bayer story there for now. You may recall in previous episodes of the Farm Show, we've discussed Bayer and glyphosate. And in fact, we've discussed it on the Brad and John Show, which you can hear right here on Westplex Talk 1045. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out the view that I've shared on the Brad and John Show since May of 2024. I think Bayer is going to end up waving the white flag on glyphosate. I think the good folks in Germany have had just about enough of these Roundup and glyphosate lawsuits. Remember, Corteva, for example, might be a pure play agriculture company, but Bayer happens to be a pharma and consumer health company that also owns some agriculture interests. And I think the good folks in Germany are looking to offload glyphosate as soon as possible to maybe the highest bidder or anybody who will take it off their hands. But that's just one man's opinion. Speaking of ag behemoths, let's talk about Corteva, who made huge news this week by announcing that they would be splitting into two companies. So for our discussion going forward, there's a company called Corteva, and there will be a company called SpinCo. It's a pretty traditional term for whatever company that you spin off from the main company. Let's go to a conference call and hear straight from Corteva executives what they have to say about the spinoff. Now, as always, the call started off with Kim Booth. She's the leader of investor relations. She had that mandatory disclaimer. We got to play it too, because we don't want anybody to think that this is financial advice. Hey, Kim, give us that important disclaimer.
During this call, we will make forward-looking statements which are based on our current expectations and assumptions about the future, and therefore subject to various risks and uncertainties. Our actual results could materially differ from these statements due to these risks and uncertainties, including but not limited to those discussed on this call and in the risk factors section of our reports filed with the SEC.
Okay, glad we got that disclaimer in. By the way, big shout out to everybody at Corteva and Investor Relations, including Kim. You know that they had, gosh, can you imagine what the last 2 weeks were like? The amount of approvals they had to get from legal, the amount of people that saw these documents 2 weeks ago that waited until the last minute to provide their feedback. Unless you've been in those rooms, you have no idea how annoying the approval process for this stuff is. Anyway, that's a point of personal privilege. Let's hear what CEO Chuck Magro has to say about this spinoff.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us today to discuss the next chapter in our company journey. Before we start, I would like to clarify a few things up front. First, our 2025 full-year guide remains intact. There are normal puts and takes, but overall, our year is unfolding as expected. Second, we remain on track to deliver our 2027 financial framework. Our first look at 2026 EBITDA has us rolling up to $4.1 billion at the midpoint, consistent with expectations. And third, our announcement today is driven by our focus on delivering long-term value. We see this as beyond 2027. What I mean by this is there are no surprises leading to our separation, as we'll discuss in a minute.
Okay, hold on, Chuck. What I like about this is that Chuck is setting the expectation that, hey, we're not making these changes because we're freaking out about the farm economy. We're certainly not making these changes because somehow business has been bad. In fact, he's letting you know he's about to show you a bunch of really good numbers. The company is not freaking out. The company is thinking way beyond the current state of the farm economy and looking way past 2027 into the long term. Here's where he gets a little bit more specific.
Let's start with a quick look back. Since the creation of Corteva as a standalone public company in 2019, we have built an organization that leads the world in agriculture technology. We increased our annual operating EBITDA by an 11% CAGR.
Whoop, hold up, Chuck. Let's define that. CAGR does not stand for raging kegger, like some of us had in college, but CAGR is CAGR, combined annual growth rate. Okay, Chuck, keep going.
And grew our EBITDA margins more than 700 basis points. A remarkable feat and a testament to our focus on technology development and controlling the controllables. And through the first half of 2025, we've returned $7 billion in cash to shareholders. In the same time period, we delivered a TSR of about 200%. Driven by our world-class R&D organization, we launch about 500 new products in any given year, putting critically needed technology into the hands of farmers. Our CP new products alone are expected to deliver over $500 million of additional revenue within our financial framework period. We are a leader in biologicals and have other exciting new growth platforms coming online, including biofuels, hybrid wheat, and gene editing, which together we described at our last Investor Day as being a multi-billion-dollar incremental revenue stream. Our track record has been consistent and strong. This performance is due to many things, not the least of which is our employees, who come to work every day with a passion for and deep belief in the mission of agriculture. I have always thought our people are the best in the industry.
Hold on, Chuck. I got to stop you there. What I love about that is, you know, that somebody in internal communications was like, dude, employees are freaking out about this. You got to remind them how great they are and how valued they are. Now, Chuck is going to lay out the good decisions that Corteva has made in previous years and where the company must go.
We simplified our portfolio and exited certain geographies. We invested in biologicals. We cut cost. We worked to optimize our manufacturing footprint. And we invested in R&D even when our margins lagged our peers. Our board and management team have always prided themselves on being and staying ahead of the curve. And we believe we're about to demonstrate this forward thinking once again. Corteva today comprises two efficient, effective, and focused operating models with strong records of growth and margin improvement. These two market-leading businesses are both farmer-centric with technology and innovation at their core. Both are focused on improving yields on farms around the world. So we begin, in both cases, from a position of strength. As you will have seen this morning, we announced a plan to separate Corteva into two new companies, one comprising our current CP business and the other our seed business. The decision to act now is rooted in a few core beliefs on the part of the board and the management team. First and foremost, as a farmer-centric organization, today we appreciate that our customers want and need choice across their input decisions, including seed and CP. Over the mid and long term, the best way, maybe I can even say the only way, for this company to preserve and expand that choice and keep putting innovative, effective, sustainable solutions into the hands of farmers around the world is to give both businesses the freedom to operate without having to look out for the other. Second, we believe that the recipe for success in the future will be different from what it is today. This includes not only the way the two businesses choose to innovate, but how they operate within their respective value chains, and also how they make themselves even more cost efficient. For example, the continued success of our Spinco business will be predicated upon sustained investment in advanced genetics and further capitalizing on our unique route to market. At New Corteva, success will be built upon an optimized supply chain, new level of operational excellence, and the ability to invest in next generation of sustainable differentiated innovation, including biologicals and other nature-based products. And third, we believe separation will give both businesses the corporate currency and balance sheets to invest in long-term organic and inorganic growth to capitalize on market opportunities, all of which will be backed by targeted investment-grade credit ratings. And of course, a separation will allow these businesses to maximize long-term value, certainly for our shareholders, but also for farmers, customers, and our employees. We expect this to be a low-complexity transaction, and any dyssynergies it presents to be manageable and ultimately outweighed by mid- and long-term opportunities. We did not make this decision quickly or take it lightly, but as I said earlier, we have a history of moving before the market, and we believe we are doing so again. I want to stress as strongly as I can that this is not about the business 6 years ago, or even today. This is about tomorrow.
Magro then went on to give an overview of both the crop protection industry as it stands today and also the seed business.
Let's start with New Corteva. Our view of the crop protection market hasn't really changed. We all know recent conditions have been tough, and this market has always been competitive. But we still believe the market will return to growth in the near future. As many of you know, our CP business has largely outperformed the market through the recent period of intense market competition. We've seen 5 consecutive quarters of volume gains and flat pricing in our CP new products in the first half of 2025. The market is improving. Importantly, the CP market also needs and still values effective, differentiated technology, as we see in the rapidly expanding biological segment, and price premiums for patented technology. And as a result, the things we've been highlighting over the past year or two, including our CP new products and biologicals, should allow New Corteva to continue to grow above the market and improve its margin profile in the near term. So again, while our view of the CP industry is mostly unchanged, what has changed is what we think will be needed over the next few years and beyond for it to remain a global leader. Specifically, we firmly believe CP industry players will need to innovate and compete differently than they did just a few years ago, or even today. A pure play company will be best equipped to fulfill the mandate for this mission. Also, the technology advantage New Corteva enjoys, coupled with its laser focus on operational excellence, will continue to be a competitive strength, helping it to remain one of the premier players in the global market. Being a pure-play crop protection business will give new Corteva the flexibility to further optimize its manufacturing and supply costs, develop deeper collaborations and partnerships on innovation, and drive more effective channel management in ways that are simply less feasible as part of an integrated Corteva today.
Okay, Chuck, that sounds good. A standalone, pure play crop protection company. But we only got a few minutes left in the show. Tell us about seeds and traits.
Looking forward, the prospects of plant genetics are almost limitless. Perhaps it's not surprising to say that we know more about crop genetic science today than any other time in human history. The application of AI tools will give us the ability to accelerate new innovation, which when combined with advanced genetics could unlock new opportunities across numerous species. This is why we believe that the continued success of SpinCo will be predicated upon sustained investment in advanced genetics. That is, unlocking a plant's genetic code to unleash previously unreachable breakthroughs to accelerate the pace of innovation. And as a pure-play crop genetics company, SpinCo could go beyond its corn and soybean core into other row crops, even expanding into other areas like fruits and vegetables. SpinCo will also look to expand on new opportunities in wheat, cotton, rice, and other products where genetics can play a transformative role. In other words, we could see SpinCo playing in a vastly expanded addressable market. All of this, on top of its unrivaled direct route to market, will lead SpinCo to deliver its next phase of above-market, innovation-driven growth and shareholder returns. While there are benefits to an integrated or technology systems approach, like we have today with Enlist, when we look ahead 10 or 15 years after the current systems evolve into next-generation solutions, the future looks different. We believe tomorrow's systems will be open or multi-source licensing agreements with multiple modes of action. Farmers will need these systems due to rapidly growing crop resistance and environmental challenges, insects, weeds, disease, and so on, presented by changing weather patterns. And as we noted earlier, farmers want choices. In other words, integration is no longer a prerequisite or a predictor of success. The facts on the ground have changed such that we believe it may actually constrain long-term value creation.
Okay, we're going to have to cut Chuck short right there because we're right up against the end of the hour. What I'm hearing him say, and what growers will be interested in, looks like Corteva will be playing looks like SpinCo, the spin-off company from Corteva, will be playing in wheat, so growers in our area might have some SpinCo options in wheat. And also they'll be competing in cotton and rice as well. And I think he also said fruit and veg could be on the table. We will explore more of this next week, likely in C Block. Won't you join us next week? And you can join us anytime on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Just look for Farm Show Radio. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next Saturday at 10 a.m. on Westplex Talk 104.5.